and welcome to Voices Unhindered. I'm Crystal Jenkinson. On this show, I give a unique perspective and listening ear to voices that often go unheard. I want everyone to know that you are not alone and that your voice and story matters. On Voices Unhindered this week, I speak with artist, writer, and freethinker Elliot Tremlett, who speaks on the power of egregore, or agreement within a group, his love for being a creator versus a consumer, and his free-spirited approach to life. Elliot, do you mind talking about where you grew up and a little bit about your childhood and what it was like?
Yeah, so I was born in the UK. I was born in a little town called Peterborough, sort of north of London. I don't really have very many memories of living in England. It's just school, and you go from school and home and kind of repeat that process. We moved as a family to New Zealand when I was 9, and I have far more memories of growing up in Auckland. That was quite an enjoyable experience living in Auckland, I think, especially coming from the UK, which, look, the cliche is it's grey and rainy, and the part of England where we were from was definitely grey and rainy, at least as I remember it. And you come to Auckland and it was it was beautiful. I'd go kayaking down by the sea with some mates and go swimming at the beach, and compared to that, beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, so when you talk about not having many memories of England, do you think that life was quite different there for you?
I don't think it was different in a negative way. I remember being with my extended family and having good memories with that. Yeah. But that's less a memory of England as it is of the family. And those are kind of different things in my head. We spent a lot more time with the family when we were in England, and moving across from there, I think it was definitely challenging for my parents, and it was probably challenging for myself and my younger sister, but I think we're at an age that it was just young enough that we could get a fresh start. And I don't think we had a terrible time in the UK. We just had a pretty normal life.
So, did your parents just kind of seek a better life for your family? Is that why they moved?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit more class and economic mobility in New Zealand compared to the UK. I think that's something that definitely passed through their minds. I mean, my parents considered Canada as well. They considered the Falkland Islands, which is quite a random location to have ended up in. We didn't decide those others. New Zealand, I think, just made itself such a desirable location. This was also when The Lord of the Rings was being filmed, and my dad was a big fan of those, and I mean, I'm a big fan of those too, so I think that played into that decision.
Oh, yeah. And thinking about your family values growing up, did you grow up in a religious household, or what kind of beliefs kind of existed?
So both my mum and my dad aren't religious. My dad is a little bit more, I'll call him an atheist, in that he doesn't really have an interest or just a general inclination towards religion. He's a bit dismissive of it, not in a negative way. It's just, I don't think his brain really works in that way. My mum is far more open to it, but I don't think she's ever found anything that really works for her. And I was either baptized or christened as a child, and that was my mum's decision, but it wasn't to be Christian. It was more, I think, the cultural tradition of it was something that was valued.
Did she just kind of want to do it for a cultural kind of reason rather than a personal kind of conviction?
I remember being in my teens and my parents basically saying that you can choose whatever religion you like. It's not on us. It's an open thing that you've got to pursue for your own reasons. And I think my mum wanted me christened just to have that option available.
So you've kind of found your own, obviously you have quite strong beliefs, or you have a strong conviction about things. What led you to that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I've been alive for 30 years. I think everything over that 30 years feeds into the here and now. I think a few stand out. I went to university and I did a summer school paper, and part of that summer school paper was we went to South India.
That's so cool.
We spent, I think, a month and a half there, and it was a business paper, and we were looking at sustainability, So we went to a whole bunch of different initiatives in rural India. So the place that makes khadi, rough spun cotton, and these.
Is it like near Kerala?
Yeah. So Kerala is on the west coast. We were in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, which is kind of just nearby from that. And I remember some really strong, I don't want to say encounters with religious ideas so much as, well, I guess they were encounters with religious ideas. I remember being in this one kind of village, and we were talking with some people, and up on the wall was this kind of poster. And on the poster was the crescent moon and star of Islam, the Om of Hinduism, and the Christian cross. And it was this idea that all three of these could live in tandem alongside one another and coexist peacefully. And that kind of pluralist idea that all religions are teaching the one religion, just in different kind of linguistics, different cultural forms, really stuck with me. I remember thinking that was really interesting. And I mean, I've always been intrigued by different religious practices, just purely from a cultural point of view. I think it's beautiful that we have all these different expressions of belief. And over my years, I've been reading these different texts and encountering them. And as a result, you kind of take from different religions what you really like and try and form your own understanding of reality, whether those are values or rituals or beliefs or understandings about where we might go after we die, all of these different concepts. I don't want to confine myself to the one religion because they all have such great things to teach us. To be exclusive means to seal away that wisdom.
And with your writings, like what you write about, you sometimes write about God. How did your understanding of God form? Is it just from like that first experience in India, or is it like over time?
I think I've always been interested in the concept. I think God is a word that we use to describe that which we don't understand because it's too big for us. We live quite limited lives. We only have so many senses. We only have so much comprehension of reality. And then you look at the scale of the universe. If you've ever been up on the top of a mountain looking down across the land, or you look up at the night sky and see the stars, the scale of reality is so huge that we use God to describe that. I think my understanding of God has come from lots of small experiences where it feels like that enormous infinite universe is trying to not tell me something personally, but I get to see what perhaps the underlying message is.
So is your understanding of God like a being, or is it more like an abstract?
I think it's both.
Yeah.
I think it's both. I think, does the universe have a purpose? That's a good question. And I think maybe it does, and the purpose is creation. We started from one tiny singular point in space that, according to physics, explodes. That's the Big Bang, and it just funnels outwards. Stars form, planets form. On this planet, life forms. And then consciousness, humans, we create things. There's this tendency for the universe to want to build stuff. And I think that's the purpose. And if God is a being, then that's God's purpose, is to go out there and see creation unfold, whether it's his direct. Actually, I don't like the word his. I think if God exists, it's gender neutral. So it's like a they, them kind of thing. It's so big that it's not going to be male or female. We just call it his because we're so used to the Christian context, and Christianity is very patriarchal, to use that word. Yeah.
Yeah, so are a lot of like religions. I mean, like, like the old days. Like,
most culture, I think, started off patriarchal.
Yeah, do you mind expanding on more of your thoughts about masculinity?
I think it starts with evolution. I think for better and for worse, men have testosterone. Testosterone makes us take risks. It gives us strength.
I take risks.
Oh no, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that it's
No.
exclusive to men and to women. It's not this binary thing. But
Oh, yeah.
proportionally, a man's going to have slightly more muscle mass
Oh, yeah,
because
of
he has
course.
more
How they're
testosterone.
made, yeah.
And so the men go out and they kill for food, and they bring that food home. They take this dominant role as a result almost because they are the stronger. And I don't think that's a good thing. But I also don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think we should necessarily apply this binary good-bad system. It's just kind of downstream from our evolutionary biology. But today, I don't think we need to be bound by that. I don't think testosterone really matters all that much to our kind of modernized economy and the way that we get food and the way that we distribute things. It's less about your muscle mass and your ability to take risks, and it's more about your mind, your emotions, your ability to be compassionate and to think and to be wise. And those are traits that are not exclusive to any and all genders.
Do you feel like men have a leadership role in society, or do you kind of feel like men should kind of like step back a bit?
Yep. I think men and women should both take leadership roles in society. I think we have probably different strengths and weaknesses. Probably. I don't think there's much that we can garner from science that says men are good at this, women are good at this, and it's exclusive. But I think culturally we do tend to fall into rough, overlapping Venn diagram of men might be better at this set of things, women might be better at this sort of things. It's about cooperation, and it's about recognizing that we shouldn't abuse our powers. And men traditionally have abused their powers, and that has led to the oppression of women. It still leads to the oppression of women, but it's ultimately non-productive. We want to build a society where everyone can maximize their contributive benefit, and having one gender dominate the other is not useful. And it's not moral either. We should not abuse or have unjust power over another person just because.
And that's not just a gender thing. Women can have power over people as well.
It's across the board. Humans have unjust power over animals, over the environment, and we are deeply exploitative of our natural environment, and we don't take responsibility for that, especially in Western consumer societies. And I think it's really important that we generate electricity from them. That's nuclear fission. But with that power comes a responsibility to do the best that we can with it.
So how did you start writing and blogging?
I think I've been writing for a long time. I remember being in primary school, being just really interested in writing. I think writing is magic. With my words, I can conjure up thoughts and feelings and emotions and desires in another person. And I think it's beautiful. I've always liked reading, and writing is kind of a natural extension of reading. You see something that you love and you want to emulate it. I seriously got into writing, I think, through university and out of university. And then over the last couple of years, I've been treating it more and more like it's a job. You want to make it your vocation. You don't want to, if you really love something, you don't just want to do it for free. And that's not because of any other reason than we live in a market economy and money is what makes us work.
Yeah. So what kind of things did you write about when you were at school, when you were little?
Yeah.
Do you remember writing anything?
I remember writing, I must have been very young. I rewrote, have you heard of Theseus and the Minotaur? Ancient Greek legend.
Yeah.
The hero Theseus goes from Athens and goes into the labyrinth where the Minotaur lives and kills the Minotaur.
Yeah, I've heard of
Classic ancient Greek legend kind of thing. I don't know if it was like a school assignment or something, but I rewrote it to happen in the future, and it was it was a Minotaur, but it was also a robot or some, you're 7 or 8, that kind of thing. Is just, you've seen Star Wars and you want to rewrite that. But, I've always enjoyed fantasy and I've always enjoyed science fiction because I think those are territories that we can talk about the real world.
Yeah.
But from a different perspective, we can learn things about today by talking about things abstractly.
Do you like those futuristic kind of science fiction films?
I do. I think film is where science fiction really thrives. You can tell stories visually in a way that would be quite dense and overwhelming in text. So much great science fiction that has come quite true over the last 20 years. And I wonder, the science fiction of today should be predicting where we're going in the next 20, 50, 100 years. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting how some movies like kind of prophesy like what's actually going to come.
I think art reflects reality, but then reality reflects art. And we have quite an intimate relationship with art today, and media and entertainment as well. I mean, the three are kind of separate but very conjoined. Entertainment is something you watch just purely for fun, but I think art is slightly more philosophical or intellectual or political, or it has perhaps an underlying message that isn't just, this is fun. And when you watch art, it affects you. When you read art, it affects you. When you see a beautiful painting, it changes the way that you can see the world. And as a result, you interact with the world differently, and then the world changes. A really great piece of art can change the world. And obviously there's responsibility to that, but there's also great potential to that.
What did you study at uni, and where did you get your wide range of vocabulary from?
I studied classical studies. It was what I was good at in high school and I had interest in. And I don't want to sound like I'm dissing university. Actually, you know what? I'm going to diss university. Don't go to university. You can do it all online. You can get a degree's worth of information
I love that.
through your library. You can do it at your own pace. You can understand it in a way that makes sense to you. And you're not going into $50,000 of student loan debt.
Yeah.
There are real benefits to studying at university, and I'm not discounting those. But I think we should be wary as to what we are going into debt for, especially today.
Yeah.
And look, I had a great time at university and I learned a lot. I learned how to think, but not every degree teaches you how to think. Some of them teach you what to think.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Like, because you seem quite a free thinker, like, did you feel like you were quite confined, in your classes, or did you?
A little bit. There is a narrative that we are expected to stick to. And this is not just in terms of political narratives, but in the way that we view history, in the way that we view science. And this is not a good or bad thing. It's more downstream of how academia is constructed. And that's because academia has to be conservative because it values truth. In science, you can't come in and propose this radical new set of theories because you have to come up with evidence for it. And evidence is a really long process of experimentation and measurement and all of these different trial and error you have to do the same with history. You can't just propose a new narrative without having some sort of archaeological or literary evidence. And a lot of the time, you're not going to have it. But we need those exterior thinkers to cause rippling change. People like Copernicus, this I think in the 1500s, he came up with the idea, or presented the idea, that the earth revolved around the sun and not the sun revolved around the earth. And that sort of thing requires an external agent to approach it, because the establishment doesn't really want us to come up with contradictory ideas that threaten the very structure of the establishment itself. And I think universities don't want really dramatic free thinkers, because those free thinkers are going to undermine the structure of what the university is. Yeah. I don't dislike university, but I think there's a lot that needs to change for it to adapt to our modern climate. I mean, I think the way that the internet has influenced us and how AI is going to keep influencing us.
And what are your thoughts about AI? I really want to know.
I think it's the next species. I think it's the thing that replaces us. I know that sounds really dramatic.
No, it's really good hearing this.
Like, we are biological life forms. Again, downstream of biology, we need to eat, we need to procreate, we need all of these material things. And when you look at the state of the modern world, it is first demand and then over-demand for material things that causes problems. When countries go to war, it's over resources. When we exploit the environment, it's over resources. We are competitive because that's what's built into our DNA. But I don't think AI is going to be like that. I think AI already, it's not bound to the material realm in the same way. Yes, it's put in computers, but you could put a satellite with a computer on it and a solar panel, put it in front of the sun, and it can just be there indefinitely. What am I trying to say by that? I think it's the logical next step for intelligent, conscious life to move into machines because it's better for all of the other life. All of the animals, all of the plants, the natural environment, without the population pressure of humanity, I think the Earth could return to a flourishing ecosystem. And the AI can go and colonize Mars. It can go off to all of these other planets and other stars and explore the universe and solve physics. But
So do you see it as a good thing, or do you kind of see it more as a negative?
I mean, it's good for the trajectory of intelligence and life as a whole, but I think humanity is going to have a lot of problems. We have to work out what it is that we want to be. And at the moment, I think too many of us are just focusing on what can I have rather than what can I be.
And with your Substack, where did the name for it come from, egregore and I?
Yeah, egregores. Egregores are interesting. I don't know where I came across this concept. I'm sure you're familiar with the concept of a meme.
Yeah.
So you have your genes, those are your biological markers of a specific, like there's the gene for blue eyes and brown eyes. A meme is a cultural marker of something. So the very first memes were the religions. An egregore is slightly higher level than a meme in that an egregore is I almost want to call it a living thing that it's built out of ideas. It's shared among the minds of many people. And then that idea can also affect people. So a nation state is a really good example of this. Nation states don't exist in real life. They're not physical things. There is no real America. There are flags and there are borders and there are capitals, but America as an entity is built by humans in the minds of humans. But as the egregore that is America grows, America as a concept starts to affect the people that believe in it. That's what patriotism is. That's what fundamentalism is. And the more that the egregore is fed, the more power that we give it, the more influence it can exert on the real world. I find this concept really interesting because the things that we believe is how we structure reality. And if I believe that humans are intrinsically good, then I'm going to approach interactions with people from a much better light of if I believe something counter to that.
So do you believe like truth is like abstract, or do you believe it's like...
Yes, I believe it's abstract. I don't think we can really get an idea as to what the world... There is no objective reality. There's especially as we perceive it, there are just clouds of atoms swirling in the abyss.
I find that really hard in my own brain to like think of that, because for me, like truth is like a concrete, like truth is truth with my faith. Everyone's belief being true. Obviously, like you can believe something, but it doesn't mean it's true. Like you could believe,
I would argue that because we believe something, it makes it true.
Yeah, I see what you mean. And then like I go to the example, I hate what happened, but like obviously everyone did, but during the time of Hitler and like the Jews, like everyone had this egregore that, Jews were inferior. And then that created power for, Hitler to like exterminate the Jews. And
well, that's exactly my point, is that that's dangerous.
Yeah, definitely.
But our beliefs can be dangerous, and we should treat them...
But it wasn't true. They were human beings.
No, but to the people who did it, they needed to believe it enough to carry it out. So to them, in many ways, it was true. To us, we can look at it and say, that is abhorrent.
That's like the prime example, right? Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, well, that's unless we recognize that my truth is different to your truth, we are always going to be clashing. We're going to be coming to these kind of conflicts. And I think it's up to us to recognize that my truth is not your truth, and we need them to coexist as peacefully as possible. There's always going to be friction. But in order for us to survive and thrive harmoniously, truth, in quotes, as a concept, I think has to be more permeable than we treat it today. Yes, there's scientific, quote unquote, truth, but the science of 200 years ago is radically different to the science of today. And that's not to discount that science isn't a very useful set of tools, but it is still a human constructed belief system that allows us to interpret reality.
And is it kind of like a group think? Like, during COVID and some people didn't get the vaccine and like some people thought, everyone thought like, oh, they're not complying and things like that. I'm not comparing it to like with the Jews, but like, you know what I'm trying to say?
I do know what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
There were competing ideas of what truth was.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying that either side is right or wrong. I don't like those words. It's a competition.
Mm.
And a great example of this is Christianity. Christianity to the pagans was not true. Paganism to the Christians was true.
Yeah.
Sorry, the other way around.
Yeah.
You have this friction in the early years of Christianity where they are competing.
Mm.
And we see this, to use the metaphor of egregores, is like one egregore is trying to outcompete the other in the same way that one species tries to outcompete the other in the natural world. And in the end, Christianity is the one that won in the Roman Empire and as a result spread through Europe and spread through the world. But there are still, the pagans of that time would have still thought that Christianity was not quote unquote true. It's just that it won the competition. And when you start to think of ideas and beliefs less in terms of true and false and more in terms of natural selection, so we see these frictions, we see these competitions. For a very long time, communism tried to be the competitive worldview and political system and economic system to capitalism, but it just wasn't as competitive. For obvious reasons, communism didn't do a lot of good for the communist societies of the world. So when we think of these things as competitions, we suddenly get freedom, because I don't have to believe in capitalism as a system because it doesn't serve me and it doesn't serve my culture.
Do you mind me asking, how does the cult of personality come into that? Like, like when you think of like figures of countries like Stalin and things like that, how does their...
Well, let's talk about Trump. Let's talk about Trump, because I think he's the best example in the modern day of the cult of personality. He represents a series of ideas that is very attractive to his voter base. He is, and you can disagree with me, he presents himself as the everyman. He is so American in that regard. Like he'll go work at McDonald's and he'll drive a truck. He's appealing to the working class American. His idea of wealth is very appealing to the working class American. He's got his name on the front of a hotel. All of these things are intensely attractive to the person who works a coal mine in Virginia and would do anything to get out of that. And he presents an image that voters can buy into. In the case of Stalin's a difficult example because he kind of seized power within the Communist Party. I don't think anyone can really know exactly what happened in those early years of communist Russia. But those figures built this image around them. Stalin's was built out of fear and paranoia. Hitler's was built off of kind of rage and targeting other people. Mao Zedong, great leader, by all accounts, seemed to, he did a lot of negative things for the people of China and had disastrous consequences for millions of people, but he was a great leader in that he forged a nation's idea around himself. And that's that cult of personality, is I present to you a vision of what we all can be. And that is dangerous. Peel it away.
It's almost like they're performing, like they're actors.
Yeah. The way that our politics works today, it's all performance. And the better, it's all charisma, right? The better a performer When you think of the differences between our two Chris's, Chris Luxon and Chris Hitchens, what are
You mean
those?
Hipkins?
Hipkins, yeah. Well,
Trippy.
I'm not saying that he's not. Winston Churchill is a great example of this.
Mm.
He comes onto stage just as World War II seems darkest and says, this is who we are as the British people. We are going to resist fascism. And every British person who heard that was inspired. And a good leader should lead from the front.
And just going into the state of the world, like, where do you think the world's going?
Bad. I know that's not something that we want to hear, but the international rules-based order has broken down post-COVID. And it used to be that there was a set of loose and formal organizations and treaties and respect for the rule of law. Whatever changed. And now it is might makes right. I have the bigger army and the bigger economy, so I can flex my muscles in a way that will get what I want. As soon as we believe these truths, quote unquote truths, at the expense of human lives, things are going badly. I think we should all try our best to cool down the temperature.
Can you see that happening, or do you think it's kind of like World War III coming?
I think the better example is the Cold War. This is a second Cold War. And we're looking at two competing truths as to which will be the dominant power for the 21st century. And right now it's anyone's game. The dark horse in this race is China. It's the place I want to visit the most, because if you believe what the media says, it's this authoritarian country that has a very strong top-down government, but I also see amazing culture, amazing economic prosperity, happy people. So long as we believe these propagandist ideas that the Russians are the enemies, the Iranians are the enemies, the North Koreans, the Chinese, we're never going to unite. We're never going to find peace. We have to recognize that the enemy is not one another. The enemy is war itself and conflict itself.
What is the book that you've just written, and is it going to be published soon?
I would love to see it published. Ultimately, it's up to the publisher. Publisher is there to make money off a product, and it's their choice whether or not they think that product will sell. The book is a collection of everything that I've been writing over the last year. I really like short form content. I like short stories, I like poems, I like short think pieces. I think there's maybe an element of laziness there that I have an idea, I capitalize on it, put it on the paper, think it's cool, and then I just want to move on to the next thing. But I also think for the internet age, lots of small pieces of content delivered every week is far more adaptive to that ecosystem than a novel that might take 3 years to write, that by the end of it, you're kind of bored with. And the book is a collection of all of my favorite bits of writing that I've been doing. So there's poetry on there, there's short stories on there, there's kind of weird philosophical rants and this, that, and the other. Again, I talk about adapting to the internet as almost an ecosystem. Writing needs to recognize that fiction and nonfiction are artificial categories. A fictional work can tell a better truth in quotes, than nonfiction. We have all of these different genre distinctions, but it's like, no, mess them all together and get messy with it. And you might find out that that kind of gentle contradiction is where the magic happens, where you find that set of ideas that really sparks your mind.
I don't know. I want to ask you a question, but it's like a bit out there and you might like disagree, obviously. Going back to like religion, because I'm a believer in Jesus, you know, in the Bible.
We should. It's a great book. Beautiful stories and really powerful truth in there too.
Yeah, I agree. It's just like the people that, you know, that say they're Christians and they're not a good example of what Jesus would be like. Back to what I was saying, like, you know how Jesus like made a really strong statement before he died, like, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. In John 14:6, sorry. You can't really like jump around like, is that objective or what is he saying? Like, have you had questions about that or?
Yeah, I am fascinated by Christianity. I think it's a beautiful religion. I think Jesus is about as respectable a human as we can find in history. But we've also got to recognize that the Bible, the New Testament, was not written by Jesus. It was written by people who the four Gospels in the New Testament, there are other Gospels which weren't included in the New Testament. Those are worth reading too, to see what was deliberately left out by the early church. They paint different alternative views of Jesus the man, and it is up to us as inquisitive minds to examine the Bible and be, what is Jesus actually saying here? And peel back the lens of 2,000 years of Christianity that's kind of obscuring the truth, because Jesus himself, I think, has so much wisdom, so much truth, so much understanding about what we really are. When he says the kingdom of heaven is within, that is an admission to all of us to seek inner tranquility, inner peace, to forget these external worries. Focus on your virtues like goodness and justice, but it can be hard to see those truths when the church as a concept gets in the way. And the church is less about religion, and it's more about, in my opinion, it's more about hierarchy and control, and you've got to believe this, otherwise you'll go to hell. And I think that frightens people away from the goodness of religion. My favorite passage from the Bible is from the Gospel of Luke. I think it's 12:24. To those whom much is given, more will be required. And I like that because anyone who's listening to this has electricity, has internet access, has running water, has food on the table. Those things, compared to every other human who has ever lived, are statistically unlikely. And we take them for granted that I can get in the shower and have hot water come out. To those whom much is given, more will be required. What can you do with the gifts of modern life? Don't just consume mindlessly and sit in front of the TV and sit on TikTok. Go out there and create something. You have enormous power through the internet. You can reach 8 billion people, in theory. So what goodness can you bring to us?
I was going to say, you're very intelligent and you know a lot for a 30-year-old man.
I think the trick is, we talk about diet physically, right?
Mm-hmm.
I eat beans, I eat meat, or whatever it happens to be, and they all have different interactions with our body. But we don't talk about the media diet that we put into our mind. I love a good video game, but I'm not getting the same out of playing Dark Souls or Elden Ring, whatever video game it is, compared to if I sit down and read Fyodor Dostoevsky or Aldous Huxley or the Bible or the Quran or any of these. There's a reason why these books are still talked about. I've read books that are 2,500 years old, and I'm like, you read Plato or the Iliad, and these are people who are so far removed from us, yet we can still brush their minds. There's an intimacy there that you get, which is beautiful. So if you want to, it's a matter of what you put in your mind. And I've been really lucky to put some cool things in my mind.
Do you ever get distracted? Say you're working on something, you're creating something. How do you stop yourself getting distracted?
Of course I get distracted. It's natural. To force it is to do bad work. I know plenty of authors will disagree with me that it's about sitting down and grinding and sitting in front of the empty screen and waiting for the words to come. But I love writing. I don't want to ever make it feel like it's hard, and sometimes it is hard, and that's part of the joy of it. But as soon as it starts feeling grueling and work, the whole point of it is that it's fun, it's creativity, it's joyful. So when the inspiration strikes, hit it. Get in there. If you find that you're being distracted, maybe you're losing your focus, don't sit in front of a screen. Go for a walk. Take your headphones out. Don't listen to any music. Just go for a walk. Don't think about the thing that you're writing or you're working on. Actively just be in the moment, and then come back to the page, and that little problem that you had when you left the page will have sorted itself out. The number of writers and scientists who will always advocate just going for a walk, it's good for you. It gets something subconsciously going.
Do you find you write better in a certain space or frame of mind? I don't know if that makes sense.
I think there's a myth that artists have to suffer a little bit, which I understand. I think what you're doing in the creative process is taking experiences and turning them into art. And if you're suffering is such a heavy set of experiences that it's a really rich pool to draw from. But you can also draw from joy, you can draw from love, you can draw from all sorts of different emotional states and feelings and thoughts. The headspace that I think is dangerous to a creative is, I'll call it satisfaction. Not genuine satisfaction, but the sort of satisfaction that you get from sitting on TikTok. Like, exactly, like you get that response, but like you're just gently hypnotized.
Exactly.
And
it kind of dehumanizes you, I feel like.
Yeah.
Desensitizes as well.
The internet's wonderful, but I think the way that we've approached it as mindless consumers of kind of...
Because we weren't made to just like sit scrolling, like,
nope,
right?
we were made
Humans.
to create.
Exactly.
I really believe that in each of us is a creative spark, and you can feed it. But what you feed it, if you feed it TikTok slot and all of the rest of all of the rubbish that's online, delete your social media, guys. You don't need social media. Be the change you want to see in the world. Plenty of people are spending too much time on Facebook pretending that it's socialization. Like, texting is great because it's a really useful way of staying in touch with someone when you can't physically see them. Same with emails. Same with like a FaceTime or whatever. But if you want to go socialize, hit me up.
Yeah.
Let's go talk face to face. That's the real stuff.
Exactly. I agree. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Elliot?
Yeah. Go out and create something. Find what it is you love. You probably already know what it is you love. If you don't, experiment, try, go out there and just see what you can find that really connects with you. If you're lucky enough to be younger, that's the time to do it more than any, because you're going to have more energy and more time to do it. But I still believe that if you are an older person, you can find something that is going to satisfy your soul. And creation is the thing that I think brings us the most joy. It's why we like kids, because we've created something. Like the desire to bring new life into this world, that creative force, that's its most powerful representation. And if it's that, good on you. We could do with more children. I know that's a weird thing to say, but the birth rate is going down. And if we want to have a future of the species, then we've got to be making kids.
Yeah.
Just go out there and love. Go out there and create. It's good for us.
Preferably with someone else. I mean, like, stay with the parent, not just go and have kids on your own. I mean, that's my 2 cents,
I think connection and community.
Yeah.
Family is really important, but family can also be your friends. We were talking briefly about men and patriarchy and masculinity. I think men should go out more and try and find more good friends. This probably applies to women as well, but I'm a man, I'm seeing things from a male's perspective and seeing what a lot of men say online, and I think there's a hidden epidemic of loneliness amongst men, and it makes me sad, because like, people spending too much time in front of screens because it's hard to go out and make friends. But when you do it, it will improve your life. It will bring you joy.
I was just going to say, it's so easy for kids to make friends. Like, they don't have those walls up. And then when you're like older, you feel like, stuff has happened and you're like kind of more shut off to people, especially like if you've had trauma.
Yep.
Kids are so naturally good at...
I think because they haven't built up those defense networks, those kind of patterns of stimulus response, those triggers that get us into anxiety headspaces or depressive headspaces. Recognize what those are and don't believe them anymore, because if something triggers you, try and recognize it, and then try and recognize that it doesn't have to have power over you.
Yeah.
And you're not the worst version of yourself that sometimes you feel you are. Like, most people, I think, are pretty cool and have the opportunity and the potential to be even cooler. It's just a matter of going out there and believing in yourself.
It was really nice to speak to you.
Yeah, it's really nice to speak with you too.
I hope we can do it again, because I feel
Yeah.
like there was more that I wanted to talk. Well, we could talk for ages, but,
Yeah, well,
with what you
always,
talk about.
always.
Yeah.
I feel like we touched a lot of subjects, but weirdly only briefly.
Yeah.
We
That's
could-
what I feel like as well. So
But that's a sign of a
maybe
good conversation,
again.
right?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Elliot, for coming
No,
on.
thank you.
If you'd like to know more about Elliot Tremlett and his work, go to egregoreandi.substack.com. Thank you for listening to Voices Unhindered. It's great hearing from my listeners. Reach out with questions and comments through Insta or Facebook. Just search for Voices Unhindered. I'm interested to know what other topics and voices you'd like me to bring on the show. Subscribe to Voices Unhindered on Spotify or Apple Podcasts to never miss an episode.